If you were a kid in the 80s, then you know about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the huge pop cultural phenomenon that they were. And for all you 90s kids out there who have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, let me fill you in. In 1984, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird released their self-published comic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. With its bizarre premise, gritty violence, and blatant parodies of comics like Ronin and Daredevil, it quickly became a huge hit in the indie comic scene. But it wouldn't be until 1987 when the duo's ultra-violent comic would be adapted into a campy, kid-friendly cartoon, which would skyrocket the Heroes in a Half Shell into superstardom. Okay, remember how big Pokemon was in its prime? Now imagine that, but bigger. I'm serious. Tmnt was everywhere. Toys, bedsheets, cereals, playsets, pastries, 3 Hollywood films, one of which was actually really good, over 10 video games, 2 of them standing with the greats of the beat-em-up genre, and even a live concert. Yeah, people paid money to watch guys pretend to play instruments while cosplaying as the Ninja Turtles. Yeah, they were a pretty big fucking deal. Even Japan had to get in on it. And that's what brings me here today. Yeah, strap yourselves in, guys, it's gonna be a weird one. The Tmnt wasn't just a big hit in the States, it also found quite the fanbase in the land of the old Rising Sun, and was popular enough that TV Tokyo produced a 2-part OVA based on the original series called Mutant Turtles Chojin Densetsuhen. That was a tie-in for the Super Mutants and Metal Mutants toy lines. Now you'd think with TMNT being so popular that these OVAs would be brought over here, but there are a few reasons that we never saw it in the States, but I'll go into that later. Let's move on to the summary. The first part opens with a recap for an episode that doesn't fucking exist. It explains that the Turtles went to the Neutrino Kingdom because apparently the Neutrinos have a kingdom. I guess that was before Krang went all Mussolini on their ass. There our Heroes in a Half Shell meet the Spirit of Light Chris Mew, who gives them the ancient Mutastones that transform them into the Super Turtles. So basically she's Zordon and they're now the Mighty Mutant Power Turtles. I can dig it. But the boys in green aren't the only ones there. Shredder and Krang had followed them and found their own set of Dark Mutastones. So yeah, the bad guys transform, the good guys transform, good conquers evil, and we can finally get to the episode. Part 1 starts with Krang destroying stars and he explains to Shredder that, "What is wrong with your face?" Okay, as you may have noticed, Shredder's had a bit of a redesign. This was to make him look more like his Super Mutant action figure. Apparently it's explained in the manga that Shredder's armor was destroyed and Krang made him a new set. Really wish that they would have explained that in the OVA, but whatever. Krang explains that he's using the power of the Dark Mutastone to destroy stars to awaken Dark Mew, the evil spirit that lives in the stone, so that she can destroy the Earth and kill the Turtles. Okay, ignoring the fact that destroying the Earth to kill Turtles is excessive as all hell, why doesn't Krang just use the star-destroying technology to blow up the Earth instead of relying on the power of an unpredictable evil demigod? Just throwing that out there. Later we cut to the sewers where April, who has also had herself a bit of an animu redesign, and the Turtles are informed by Chris Mew that only Dark Mew has the power to wipe out stars like that, and that someone must be trying to revive her. It's pretty obvious who's behind it, and it takes our heroes no time at all to run into the Shredder. So yeah, the villains transform, the hero transform, the fight commences in a flurry of DBZ-inspired signature moves. Meanwhile, as Dark Mew's revival approaches, Mother Nature goes all day after tomorrow and New York is flooded. By the time our heroes reunite with the Shredder, it's too late. Dark Mew is awakened, and she uses her powers to turn the Shredder into the Dragon Zord. Holy shit, okay, this is pretty fucking cool now. Shredder goes straight on the offensive, launching a dark energy ball thing, but Splinter catches it with his bare hands, and being the pimp that he is, just leapfrogs right over it.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Unfortunately, the kick-assness that is Mecha Kaiju Shredder comes to a swift and rather anticlimactic end. Alright, that was pretty gay. Dark Mew, like any good shonen anime villain, declares that she will destroy the galaxy and flies into space. The Turtles then decide to combine to their ultimate form, the Turtle Saint, and go after her.
Go! Voltron Force!
The OVA reaches its climax as the two do battle. In space! Chris intervenes and holds Dark Mew back as Saint goes for the final strike. Sealing the two back in their stones, the Turtles lose their powers and are picked up by a nearby space shuttle, which ends part 1. Much like the first part, part 2 kicks off with a recap. The difference being here that they're recapping the last OVA. You know, something that actually fucking happened. The story begins with the Turtles and April joining Splinter on a trip to Japan. as he has received a message asking for help. No, literally, it just fucking says help. The one in need of said help is Hattori Kinzo, a ninja who looks like Ria Hayabusa, you know, before he went all bondage gimp. Hattori explains that he called for Splinter because someone had been trying to steal their sacred MacGuffin mirror that has 7 magical stones affixed to it. After a quick examination, Donatello comes to the conclusion that these 2 must also be Mutastones, though they look nothing like the ones that we saw earlier. Krang detects the power of the stones and sends Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady to Japan to retrieve them. The next morning, a ghost named Yukimura appears. Hattori explains that he's an evil spirit that was sealed away by the founders of their clan, and he has some sort of fucking obsession with the mirror, I don't get it. Afterwards, Shredder shows up, and things just degrade into a Teenage Mutant Ninja clusterfuck. During the commotion, Hattori pulls a chain, destroying the shrine and revealing the hidden fortress of the Shinobi Village, with the mirror placed on top of it. Shredder and the Turtles waste no time, and a race to the top begins. Just as our villains are about to claim victory, Hattori and his band of ninjas use the ancient art of throwing a shit ton of mirrors to confuse them. But this also leaves Hattori incapable of finding it. But Shredder quickly realizes that the ghost Yukimura is sitting there pointing at the goddamn mirror the whole time. So with the stones now in his possession, he and his minions transform, and the Shredder is now the White Tiger Zord? Whoa, so first he was, and now he's, no, that can't be accidental, can it? Shortly after, the Turtles get their hands on the mirror and claim the 4 remaining stones and transform.
Armor of wildfire! Down!
Now, with their bitchin' new Ronin Warriors-esque armor, the final battle begins. Everyone breaks out their new attacks, the good guys gain the upper hand, and then their time runs out. They turn back to normal, but as one last fuck you, Shredder grabs 3 of the Mutant Stones before jumping through the portal. Leonardo promises that he'll get the stones back somehow. And it ends. That's it. It's over. Fuck your need of closure. So yeah, we have 2 stories. One that lacks a proper beginning, and the other which lacks a proper ending. There are so many things I could nitpick about, like why was the ghost even there? Why did Krang want to blow up the Earth? How are these both Mutastones when they look completely different and have different powers? The list goes on. But given the source material, I think these things can be forgiven. After all, this was the series that gave us lines like,
"This can only be the work of ninjas, the ancient band of Japanese warriors."
And how can you tell that from the rope, Professor?
Well, look for yourself. It's made in Japan.
Though I do have a few problems with, there are still plenty of things to praise it for. The animation is surprisingly smooth, especially when you consider that it was made to whore out toys. Though there are a few still frames, and some scenes just look outright sad, the budget really shines when it matters. The super moves look awesome, though some of them are a bit overused, and the faster paced scenes have a nice high frame rate. The character designs are near perfect, with the exceptions being Shredder and April. Everyone looks like they stepped out of the classic cartoon that I grew up with. As for the audio, many of the original voice actors from the Japanese dub of the series reprise their roles in this. And surprisingly, hearing my childhood heroes in Japanese wasn't as jarring as I thought it would have been. I mean, all the characters are well played, with the exception of retard Hayabusa.
Sensei, お久しぶりです。服部金蔵、お出迎えに参上つかまつりました。
And it's pretty interesting to get a feel for the translation choices that the Japanese made, like Krang calling Shredder Saki-chan, and Michelangelo making Japanese puns, though they made no goddamn sense to me. Overall, I really enjoyed the Japanese dub. Now if only I could speak so kindly about its soundtrack. It's not that it's bad, it's just amazingly mediocre, which is a real shame seeing as the US version of Tmnt had an amazing soundtrack, especially going by children's cartoon standards, though the OST does have one shining gem in it, the intro theme, which was performed by Hironobu Kageyama, probably best known for his contributions to DBZ's soundtrack. But much like the rest of the score, it falls short of its US counterpart. But come on, that's a pretty tough act to follow. So if the Turtles were so popular, why wasn't this OVA ever brought over? Well, the first part wasn't made until 1996, and the second part wasn't released until the following year. By then, Turtlemania had ended. In 93, the third film had failed to meet box office expectations. After years of declining ratings, the cartoon finally got cancelled in 96, and the franchise had its last death rattle the following year in the form of a live-action TV series that lasted 1 season. It wouldn't be until 2003, a full 5 years later, before the Green Teens would show up on the radar again. No surprise that we never saw this anime. Honestly, if anything, I'm more perplexed that this even got made. The Japanese run of Tmnt only lasted from 1991 to 1993. Out of the entire 193 episode run, Japan only showed 102 episodes of it. So this OVA was created after they had been without new Ninja Turtles for over 3 years. I wish I could tell you the story behind that, but unfortunately I couldn't find any info on it. Even reading a poorly translated Japanese Wikipedia page, I got no new information. So, sorry, can't help you there. Alright, to sum it all up, is this anime worth your time? If you're not a fan, then definitely skip this one. But if you grew up with the 87 Ninja Turtles like I did, and you're a fan of anime, then I say you owe it to yourself to at least track this one down. The campy storytelling is true to the spirit of its US counterpart, and the nostalgia combined with the shonen action overtones just makes for an enjoyable treat to watch. Hey guys, so what do you think of Mutant Turtles Chojin Densetsu Hen? I mean, I obviously thought it was pretty cool, but I'm not really sure what the fandom thinks overall, so yeah, comment, let me know. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out, it's pretty easy to find.